That's not too bad. Our glue has run down. Hasn't run down too bad. So the first thing we want to do is you want to get your stripes cleaned immediately, because those are the first. They're going to dry much quicker than anything in the corner does. So the first thing you want to do is get all your drips cleaned off first. Keeping everything square, and you're taking your time and trying to be as precise as possible. You can see there is virtually zero gappage on any of those corners. We have a very nice, tight cabinet. That's going to make for a good, strong glue joint. You're not going to have to worry about anything coming apart. But it's also not unsightly. I mean, nobody wants to look in the back of a cabinet and see big gaps back here, or in these surfaces down here. You want all of that to be seamless, basically. And we've done this with nothing but a track saw, circular saw, and a square and router. So edge banding. You're gonna need an iron. In my experience, if you can get an old one, they get hotter. They're more dangerous, but it's worth it. The older joiners get hotter, or the older irons get hotter quicker. So I use this old Black & Decker, and if this one failed, I'd probably go to the thrift store and try and find another old one. You're going to need your iron-on edge banding. Use a quarter sheet sander, but I like my Lie-Nielsen block plane. You can also use like a number 4 smoothing plane. I just like the one-handed. Anyway, so now I actually look, the cabinet maker I worked with taught me the most. He actually sanded his, but I'm more of a traditional woodworker. I actually really like using a hand plane on this. It's a little quicker and absolutely smooth when you're done. So I've got that all flattened out. I've got my edges are nice and flush. So we want this to look like, you want your sides to come down. Your straight should be in your sides, your bottom should be between that. So what we're going to do is first, we're going to make these. I just cut mine a little bit long. Edge banding is easy that way. So we're going to want to cut 2 pieces of banding. It's easy, it's just figure you go through center cabinet, center cabinet. Break off those 2 pieces of your iron banding, then do your length. Let that hang a little bit. Okay, do that. Now I've got my sides. Okay. So your edge banding is slightly larger than your veneer core plywood. So there's a balance here. You do not want to heat your banding to the point that you burn it. That's important. Now in this case, this is a paint grade kitchen, so I actually don't really have to worry about it, but you don't want to hurt especially if it's a clear coat kitchen. If you're doing cabinet exteriors, and these need to look pretty, You definitely don't want you don't want to burn this banding. If you're seeing the black on this, it's not burning. It's I think there's actually residue on the top of the iron. And like I said, this is paint grade, so I don't really care. So you want to heat that up good and hot. After you heat it, and this is very important, if you do not do this, your banding will pop later, possibly. So after you've heated it, you need to press it down. And what you're doing by pressing it down, you're seating the glue. Any glue that might have a hollow underneath of it, you're forcing it tight into the wood, and that way you've got a well-adhered piece of edge banding that is not going to pop up later. So go ahead here and do the top one. You're going to take your standard bastard file. And you're just going to file the bulk of your excess banding off, like so. And you have to do this first because you need to get your you need to get a flat edge for your square. So you don't want to be flat with your cabinet. You're not scratching up the cabinet. You're at like 5 degrees roughly, and you're just letting the edge of the file here take that excess banding off, and you're just curling it off. Okay, so you got that. So you can do this with a knife or a chisel. I'm going to do it with a chisel because I actually don't know where my knife is right this second. Find it. So what I like to do is basically get my banding almost perfectly flush with this inside edge for the next piece. Put your chisel there, and then you can come here. We're going to do the same thing, almost perfectly flush with the interior of the cabinet. Indent. Here. Indent. Okay. Then what we can do, take your iron and heat that little leftover piece of banding, and it will slide right off of there. Voila. A little tip I'll stick here in this video. You can use quarter sheet paper folded up, which is what most people tend to use for hand sanding. But if you use your disc paper from Hook and Loop, or stick it, PSA backed discs, because it's meant for a machine, it's going to spin rapidly. This stuff is much more robust than your hand paper. So if you're doing a lot of work and you're using an orbital sander, save your leftover sandpaper. It might be too worn for the disc sander, but you'll find for hand sanding, especially for glue, all this edge banding is glue, so these tend to clog less because they're designed differently than hand paper is done, so that they're not supposed to congest as quickly as hand paper will. So yeah, so I just wanted to, that's a good tip. Save your paper, it works really good. And the other benefit is, this is a hook and loop pad, so you've got this fabricate material on the back for your hook and loop. And so the paper also just holds up better, it's more flexible, it's easier to hold on to. So I would definitely advise, instead of using quarter sheet paper, paper discs for stuff like this. They work really well, and they'll save you some money. Alright, well, I hope you found this helpful, and apologies for the camera work. Camera is not great. It's been dropped a couple times, and focus isn't working all that well. So, anyway, this is what you get. Final cabinet. Needs toe kicks and finish, and that'll continue in another video. Thanks for watching.